All right, so how many of you guys have ever done concussion testing before with any other team or league? A couple of you guys. How many of you guys have been to cobblestone clinics before? Just a couple, okay, sounds good. All right, well, my name's Tyler Fletcher, so I run most of the concussion care for Brant County. I work with pretty much every single team and league out there. We do teams pretty much out to Port Dover. So right now, as you guys can imagine, this is our definite busy time of the year. So tonight, right now, is football night at Cobblestone. So we have all your guys' teams and leagues kind of coming all night long, okay? So part of our program that we offer you guys is, while the kids are doing baseline testing, is I offer kind of a little education session with you guys. So if you do have any questions about concussions this season or any other sports injury, I'm your guy, okay? So over 80% of my practice is concussions. This is what I do all day long. Okay, I'm the concussion guy. All right.
You're the concussion ninja.
They call me the concussion ninja. That's the thing. I don't know. All right. So what Cobblestone is basically we have 3 locations across Brant County. So we have 2 in Paris here, and then we have 1 in Burford as well. What Cobblestone is we're a large multidisciplinary team. We have chiros, physio, massage, osteo. We do optometry. We do speech pathology. A wide variety of healthcare services. So the clinic that you guys are in tonight is our sports med clinic. So anything sports injury, sports medicine based, we pretty much run out of this facility, okay? So concussion testing, all right? What age group do you think is kind of the biggest age group that we see in the clinic? What do you think are kind of the big dogs that are walking in here all the time? Do you guys think that there's an age group in particular?
I would think that's 16 to 18.
Yep, definitely.
New kids in high school.
Definitely my high school kids are my big guys, for sure, okay? But it's very interesting. So I'm a big stats guy. I keep track of, what teams and leagues and all that kind of stuff that I see every year and what sports are my bad ones. And a very interesting thing that I'm seeing this year in particular is that most of my kids is actually 50-50, okay? So very interesting. The old stats were kind of, definitely my 15 to 20-year-olds were about 65%, and my peds were a little bit younger, okay? Nowadays, it's about 50-50. We see just as many young kids below the age of 15 as my older kids, okay? Very, very even, okay? And then about 25% of what we see is sports-related injuries, okay? Most concussions, tell you the truth, are not sports-related. They're things like car accident, workers' comp injuries, falls, just general traumas in general, okay? Randy, can you just confirm that's going right now? Yep, okay. So why do you guys think that there's so many pediatric concussions nowadays? Why do you think we're seeing kids that are these guys' age more and more coming in the concussion world? Why do you think?
Because symptoms are more widely recognized, right?
100%, definitely one of the things for sure, okay? But what about training in that nowadays, okay? How many of you guys do dryland training or working out with your young kids?
We didn't get to do a ton of it with these kids.
Oh, okay.
We had a couple practices without equipment on, and then we've had a few with equipment on.
Okay.
Seems like the season's been kind of rushed.
Rushed a little bit. So in my hockey teams, I would say probably 90% or more do dryland training, performance training, like they're in the gym pumping iron at 12 years old, okay? Back in the day when I played competitive sports, that was non-existent. We never did that. Nowadays, totally a common thing, okay? But before it was, 16, 17, 18, we're in the gym. Nowadays, you have 12-year-olds doing that, okay? So because of that, we're definitely seeing an increase in these PED cases, okay? Hence making it more prevalent. The other big problem with our PED cases is obviously the size of kids. If they're going at greater speeds, they're faster, they're stronger, what do you think's happening? They're getting more injuries. All right, guys, so I kind of went over this before. About 75% of the concussion cases that I see all day are definitely from falls, car accidents, work comp injuries. About 25% are from my sports teams, okay? So actually quite a small percentage. What do you guys think the worst sport that I see is?
I want to say rugby, but I feel like
Golf. Who said golf? All right. Sadly, football right now is number one. Okay? Sadly. Okay? What do you guys think number 2 is? Hockey's up there for sure. Okay? The second sport that is actually the worst right now is basketball. Kind of crazy, eh? And it's one of those sports that, you kind of think, you're like, how many injuries does that actually happen? Well, it's pretty prevalent. Okay? Another big one that we see is actually soccer. Soccer is another big dog sport that we see here. Why do you guys think hockey gets such a bad name? Okay, it's actually not the sport of hockey that's horrible. Okay, what makes hockey such a high risk sport kind of thing, or prevalence of concussion?
It's a violent sport.
It's violent.
A lot of hitting. You're getting put into the boards quite a bit. A lot
Yeah.
of one-on-one hits.
Yeah.
So you'd think that probably at the top.
And what do you guys think about this? Like, think about this. How many games of hockey do we play a year? A lot.
Yeah.
Okay? Hockey is the most played sport out of any other sport out there. Hands down. How many football games do you guys have this season?
5 of them.
5, right?
And then
How many
in
hockey
the
games?
playoffs, so like maybe 6.
Yeah. So maybe a dozen, right? But hockey, they're playing 100 games a season for sure. Huge amount of games. So therefore, if we're putting these kids at risk that many times, guess what's going to happen, guys? Concussions, neck injuries, okay? So pretty crazy. All right, so what is a concussion, guys? Do you think, true or false, do you guys think it's bleeding, bruising, tearing, all that kind of stuff of the brain?
Squash against the inside of the skull, right?
Okay, part of it, sure. What do you think back there, glasses? Do you think it's tearing of the brain? Something like that? All right. Well, the interesting thing with concussions, okay, it has actually nothing to do with bleeding, tearing, or bruising of the brain. Nothing at all, okay? Concussions are caused by the whiplash effect of the brain, so the brain sloshes around in our head a little bit, okay? So here's kind of a nice little graphic. So when we basically have that concussion, whether it's forward to back motion or side to side or rotational, that brain sloshes around a little bit. But what actually happens inside that brain is we have millions and millions and millions of these little nerve cells in our brain. What happens is that little nerve cell becomes stretched, okay? When that gets stretched, a lot of these minerals inside that brain become very imbalanced. One in particular, the one called calcium. So what happens is calcium actually goes into that cell and creates this massive imbalance in our brain. So for you guys, so I'm gonna do a little pop quiz later. We're gonna give away some prizes tonight. So this is gonna be one of my questions that I'm gonna ask you guys, okay? With concussions, we have 2 phases, an excitatory and a depressive, okay? The excitatory typically lasts for 3 days, okay? This is when that calcium flies into that cell and excites that brain. When I get hit, all of you guys may be football players in your past life or currently, okay? A lot of my kids, when I say, what did you feel when you got hit or anything like that, they say, I may see stars or I get an immediate headache or anything like that, but I kind of feel this rush. And that's because of that calcium going into that brain, okay? So this is called the excitatory phase. After about 3 days, we go into this thing called the depressive phase. And that is basically after that 3 days when everything calms down a little bit. When do you guys think the easiest time to get another concussion is? Do you think it's in that first 3 days, or do you think it's just after? Okay, what do you think?
First 3 days.
First 3 days. The answer is the first 3 days, okay? During that rush of calcium in that brain, in that excitatory phase, the brain is very, very susceptible at another injury, okay? So for you guys this season, if you remember anything that I say, if something happens this season, it's that you guys promise me that you'll never let your kid keep playing sports, okay? When in doubt, you sit it out, okay? I don't care if there's a minute left or 30 seconds left or whatever the heck it is, you pull your kid. Because you remember me talking for that first 3 days, and when our brain is in that big excitatory phase, bad injuries happen, okay? when kids come and see me in the clinic here, I always typically will say, I want you to take 3 days off school or take the weekend off for sure, because I know that's when re-injury is going to happen, okay? Very, very important, okay? After that 3 days, when things start to settle down a little bit, this is typically when kids have that fatigue or they just kind of feel blah, stuff like that, okay? At about 30 days, most concussions, truthfully, are doing pretty good. They're pretty healed, they're feeling pretty decent, okay? But that first 3 days, we need to make sure that, you know, we rest and we chill and we don't let our kids keep playing, okay? So once again, I don't care if there's 5 minutes left of the game, 1 minute left, they're in the Super Bowl championship. We do not let our kids keep playing, okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Pretty good? Okay. So after the first 3 days, what happens is when all that calcium's going into our body and kind of ramping up our brains, okay? The thing is we can't do that forever, okay? So what happens after that 3 days is we actually start to run out of energy. And that is now what's called the depressive phase. So we hit the wall, okay? We go kaput. Our iPhone is out of batteries. And this is what is called the depressive phase, okay? This typically lasts up to about 30 days, okay? So this is just a picture of kind of our brains after, you know, concussions during that kind of, you know, calm down phase, where you can see if this is a normal brain all lit up, nice and happy, you can see these kind of depressive phase brains where they're kind of calm and they're not getting that energy like they normally would, okay? So once again, guys, when in doubt this season, we do not keep playing, it does not matter, okay? All right, any questions about that, guys? Pretty good, pretty comfortable with that? We know what to do this season if something happens, okay? So the good news for you guys is that our trainers are on your sidelines, okay? So I can guarantee you my staff, if they see something, won't let it happen. But the key for you guys as parents is to be like, yep, cool, all good, okay? With concussions, guys, what do you think the top 3 symptoms are that most kids have? What do you guys think? Give me some symptoms that you guys have heard about. Headaches, of course. I hear it every single night. What do you think? Dizzy? Sure. Mr. Coffee? Vomiting, huge one. These are great symptoms, guys. Good job, okay? So the big thing that you guys are gonna remember this season, okay, is with concussions, there's tons and tons and tons of different symptoms kids feel, okay? Tons. The key though is, for my parents out here, just to remember, any symptom that's not your normal kid symptom is a problem, okay? So if your kid is a hyper crazy kid, okay, and then suddenly you kind of start to see him kind of tired or depressed or just not himself, that's a problem, okay? So I don't care, it doesn't have to be a headache, it doesn't have to be vomiting, right? I had a hockey player in here the other day and he had no headache whatsoever, but he had crazy vomiting. That's why I thought that was a good symptom, okay? That was his thing, all right? So concussions can be cardiovascular problems. Maybe they're walking upstairs and they're just exhausted all the time and you're like, what the heck? Or maybe they feel like their heart is racing a lot. It can be balance problems. It can be visual problems, okay? It can be neck pain, of course. Most concussions are a whiplash of the head and neck. It can be headache problems. It can be cognitive problems, okay? You know, maybe they're an A+ student and then all of a sudden now their grades are really slipping and you're kind of like, what the heck is going on? And then of course it can be emotional problems. You know, with our teenagers out here, you know, your teenagers are already emotional problem, right? Now when they get a concussion, guess what? Do you think they're even more emotional now, or maybe their mood has totally changed? These are all very, very common concussion symptoms, okay? But for you guys, even just one symptom, okay, out of ordinary can be a concussion, okay? It doesn't have to be 10 or 5, 1 is all it takes, okay? So here's kind of a big list of all the different symptoms, you know, that I commonly see in practice. Like I said, tons and tons and tons, okay? So who knows what red flags are? Has anybody ever heard of that term before? Okay.
I would say most of the things that we just talked about are those signs and symptoms.
Yeah, Yeah, so signs and symptoms are daily, normal, everything, you know, typical concussion symptoms, okay? So what red flags are the times where if we're on the field and something happens, okay, and we display these symptoms, these are when my trainers will most likely refer your child to the hospital, okay? Red flags are when we have more severe problems, okay? Things like maybe a possible brain bleed, maybe a fracture, things like that. Very much more severe things, okay? I've been doing this for over 10 years. I've seen thousands and thousands of concussions, okay? I've had maybe a couple handful of people like this that I've seen that have had these problems, okay? Typically these problems are my bad car accidents, my more severe traumas, okay? But with our normal sports population, very rare, okay? But as parents, it's good to know them, okay? So if something like this happens, good to know, okay? But on your guys' sidelines, most likely my trainers will refer out for this, okay? They'll say, we're gonna call the ambulance or we're gonna refer out, okay? So number one, symptoms worsening, okay? He gets hit on the sidelines, he's reporting a 1 out of 10 headache, not a big deal. Has a little bit of pain, nothing crazy, okay? But then 10 minutes later, he has a 10 out of 10 headache, horrible disabling headache, okay? Things are going downhill, it's worsening to severe levels. I had a kid about a week and a half in here that actually did display these. He came from the clinic. I forget what sport he was from, but young guy. And I did refer him to the hospital. So when I'm talking about worsening symptoms, this is like thriving, like you can just tell like nothing is helping. The kid came in, he said he had taken already like 10 Advil, like he was in a rough shape, okay? Thriving, unrelenting pain is what that is, okay? Pupil changes is another thing. Maybe two are nice and big, maybe one is bigger than the other. That's pupil changes. Persistent vomiting. Okay, I'm gonna tell you, football's a rough sport, okay? When a young kid gets hit for the first time, like the real hit for the first time, it's scary, okay? I remember my first hit, big deal. Sometimes vomiting may happen, right? It's part of it, sadly, okay? But when I say persistent vomiting, this is vomiting 10 times, vomiting for an hour long. That's a problem, okay? I'll never forget this. I had a girl that was about 12 years old, and she came in and had an accident at Canada's Wonderland. And she vomited for 6 hours straight was the number, okay? Can you guys imagine your daughter doing that? 6 hours. And my question to her mom was, I'm like, why did you guys go to the hospital? And they're like, Canada's Wonderland wouldn't let us go. And I'm like, that's a pretty big red flag to me, right? So I saw the girl next week, and I'm like, holy, that's crazy. But anyways, something to worry about. And then of course motor changes, you know, if the kid gets up and he just can't walk like at all, you know, we call this the limp noodle, where, you know, the kid is pretty much just unconscious and he just stays unconscious, times to go. And then of course mental status change, where, you know, you ask Johnny what his name is and he just has no freaking clue. And then you ask him another question, same thing, no clue. You know, going downhill, things like that, okay? Those are times where we go and get checked in, okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, but once again, my trainers will be on the sidelines, so they're gonna communicate with you guys if something ever happens, okay? But 99% of the time, those are never ever gonna happen. Yes?
So you said they're on the sideline. Is
Yeah.
that just at home games, or is that at away games?
I believe it's both. You'll always have a trainer in football, whether it's the away team doing you. Yeah, Cobblestone will most likely be there. I'm pretty sure it's away too.
Do you mean like they'll be the EMS at
Yes.
that game?
Yes.
They won't be our trainer. They'll just be the game's EMS.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, but we most likely will favor you guys. Yeah.
Well, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, I like you guys. All right, so big question. Parents always ask me, how long is it going to take for my kid to get better? Okay, so back to the beginning of the presentation, we have our excitatory phase for 3 days, the big boy time where we avoid re-injury, the 3 days, and then after about 30 days for that depressive phase. After about 30 days, most kids are doing pretty good, okay? I have tons of kids that within a couple weeks, they're doing great, you know? But there are some kids, you know, up to about 30%, that don't get better within that 30-day mark. And parents go, why? Why is this happening? Okay, what do you guys think the number one reason why kids don't recover within 30 days is?
They don't rest.
That's a great answer. Yeah, don't rest. What do you think the big one is, though? What's that? Well, that's what? The number one reason.
Something went undiagnosed.
Something, like that's a good answer. That's basically my last one here. The biggest reason why kids don't get better, okay, is because they go back to play too soon or they go back to school too soon. It's the number one reason that I see all the time. Every single week with my new concussion patients, I see this. They go back to football, they go back to soccer, they jump back in, and they go, hey, I'm okay, right? Electronics or something, but it's not a big deal. It's just, it's, you know, what kids do, right? But the biggest one is they return back to their normal activities too soon. And this goes for parents that have concussions too. Too many people go back to work too soon too, okay? And that's a big delay. The other one, of course, we see a lot of is how many concussions have they prior had, okay? The other one is what was their recovery with those other concussions they've had. I have kids that have had 10 concussions, but every concussion only took about a week to recover. That's okay. But when I have a concussion that took 6 months to recover, that's something that interests me, okay? We have gender. Our younger ages typically take a little bit longer to recover. And one of you guys said, maybe they have some other health conditions that delay it, okay? This is a big one. You know, how many kids here, or how many parents here have kids that have ADHD? Maybe a couple, here and there. Undiagnosed, you know? How many of you guys have it? Okay? So things like, does your child have a depressive or anxiety disorder? Do they have ADHD, ADD? You know, do they already have sleep problems? If we're not sleeping, we're not healing. Maybe they have bad diets. That's a great one. Do they get headaches on a normal day? So when they get a concussion, what do you think? They're gonna get worse headaches, right? Do you get headaches on a normal day? Well, guess what? Let's say you do. You're gonna have worse headaches, okay? These very much affect our recovery. So I always say to parents out here, I always say, you know, kind of take this, you know, thing with a grain of salt and look at your own child playing football this season and go, okay, yeah, my son has this, and this. So I'm gonna maybe take a little extra time if something happens, okay? Practical. Something to think about, okay? All right, so baseline testing, Randy. All right, why do we do it, all right? So like I said, we do pretty much every team and league across the county, summer sports, winter sports, you name it, all right? So this is a busy time for us. We're pretty solidly booked from September to October with all our teams. We do it 7 days a week, very, very busy, all right? But the reason why we do it, okay? The number one reason why we do baseline testing with your guys' kids. Back to my last slide. Remember this. Do you have anxiety, depression, ADHD, anything like that, okay? When we see kids come in the clinic, and I've never seen them before, they don't play maybe my sports teams, we do a concussion test. When we grade that concussion test, we base it off a thing called normal values, right? So you're this age, you're this gender, so therefore you should get 80% on the test, okay? That's great. But the key word is, that's not your child. Every single child is different. If you have ADHD and you do my test tonight, your results are going to be different than mine. Maybe you have a little bit ADHD. Maybe your brain is really good at verbal memory, but yours sucks, okay? Every single person is different. So that's why we do baseline testing. Because your test tonight, I always kind of say it's, I'm going to take an x-ray of your kid's brain tonight, and that's a good foundation for us to start. At Cobblestone, we do a thing called rolling baselines, okay? So tonight is your first test you're going to do with me. After tonight, we are basically going to send you guys a test every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, and you're going to do it again if you want to. All right? But it's fantastic. And as a parent myself, I 100% recommend you do it. You don't have to do it every week, guys. If you want to skip a week, who cares? If you don't want to do it that day, maybe you want to do it in 2 days from now, awesome, okay? But I'm going to give you that opportunity to do a concussion test every single week for the rest of this calendar year. So you're gonna actually have access to my program till next October, which is pretty freaking cool. Yeah.
Are the tests, so kids are gonna do this hypothetically
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah.
Is the test different every week? Does it change? Because some of them have good memory.
The test is adaptive, and what that means is that it's like a video game. So it'll go up and down levels based on how you do that day, okay? But the goal is they should get relatively the same scores every week, theoretically. But me, you know, I think your kids are potentially gonna get maybe smarter, right? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they go downhill. But whatever it is, who cares? The goal is the most accurate information you guys can do at that moment in time. So when I take the x-ray of your kid's brain tonight, I'm gonna have testing. Maybe you do the test in January. Well, that's fantastic, okay? That's the goal of what we do, okay? So the goal of testing is I get the foundation of the house today. So day one, x-ray, boom, we get some good results, awesome. Every Saturday, in a perfect world, your kids are gonna do it again. Okay? Like I said, you don't have to. It's up to you. I recommend once a month. Number two is when we recommend to maybe go back to sport, whether it's going back to practice or go back to a game, we kind of have an idea of where your guys' kids are, right? If you don't have this kind of information, we go by those normal values, whatever the heck that means. In my world, that means garbage, okay? Because I have a son that has ADHD, and I know he's not going to perform the exact same as the normal values for his age and gender. That's garbage, okay? So number one, foundation. Number two, when we're making that clearance to play, we have that good starting point. We know where they have to get to, okay? So with our baseline testing tonight, it is a cognition-based test. It goes over different forms of memory, reaction time, concentration, a whole bunch of fun, fun things, okay? This is an example of one of the things your guys are doing tonight. This is called the polygon test. So basically we have different shapes. So they have 90 seconds to do it. Does this match with this shape? The answer is yes. So they're gonna click match. And they're gonna do this as fast as they can for 90 seconds, okay? The other reason why we do rolling baseline is, say they're tired tonight. Say coach ran them to the freaking ground tonight and they're exhausted, okay? Next week, they're gonna do the test again. And maybe they feel amazing. Cool, they have different results that time, that's fine. Next week, they're gonna do it again. So what happens over time is that we get these nice curves, okay? So that's my message to teams is when we do rolling baselines, is yeah, I do recommend you try to do it a couple times a month or whatever, because it's only the better for your kid, okay? Another test we do is basically called the color to word test. So what is the color on top, guys?
Right.
Red. And what is the word below? Is this one correct? Or this one correct, guys? So we're going color to the word of that color below. This one's correct, if anyone's wondering. I know it's hard. So we're gonna do it for 90 seconds straight. Bam, 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 color to word, color to word, color to word, color to word. Okay, tricky, okay? Just for information, kids that have ADHD, do you think they're gonna do good on this test? No, okay? So, like I said, they're gonna get some nice curves here, fantastic. Okay, these are just two examples of kids that I have. Okay, this is another one, okay? So really, really cool stuff, right guys? Does that kind of make sense of what we're doing tonight for your guys' information?
When you say like you're taking an MRI of the kid's brain?
No, it's a
What is
cognitive,
an X-ray?
it's just an
Oh, it's
analogy.
not an X-ray.
No, we're doing a
Oh.
cognitive test.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just an example of kind of what we're doing.
Aye.
Okay, so today it's kind of like a little bit of a memory test.
Sure.
Yeah, cognition only. Yeah. All right, guys. So how many of you guys are familiar with Rowan's Law? Okay, most of you guys should kind of know what that is. A kind of a cool buzzword is called second impact syndrome. So Rowan's Law was created because of second impact syndrome. So Rowan was an Ottawa rugby player that sadly passed away because of concussion injuries, okay? Very sad situation. She passed away because of second impact syndrome, okay? So back at the beginning of the presentation, I told you guys concussions have nothing to do with bleeding, bruising, twisting, or tearing, or anything like that, right? Remember when I said that? Concussions are a functional problem. They have light sensitivity, their balance is bad, their cognition is bad, things like that. It's a functional problem. There's no tearing or any structural problem with most concussions. The problem is when we get another concussion in that 3-day, what's that phase called? Honda? Excitatory phase. All right? When we get that concussion in that excitatory phase, guess what? We get this. Okay? And that's why, you guys, this season, we're not going to keep playing in those first 3 days, because we're going to remember this, Rowan's Law. Okay? Number one, very important. When we get second impact syndrome, sadly, we get things like swelling, bruising, and all that of the brain, and sadly, that can lead to the big bad word. Okay? So, what other sports out there, guys, do you think second impact syndrome is a very serious thing? And it's not our football, hockey, rugby players. Maybe some of them. Fighters. Okay, when I started my career, boxers were my people. Okay, I had lots of sponsored athletes, all that kind of stuff. They're all 20-year-old guys, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. And sadly, they have lots of potential. Okay, but do you think that these guys are going to maybe have some long-standing concussion stuff when they're 40, 50, 60 years old? Yeah, horrible. It's terrible. So these guys are hugely medicated, severe disability guys, crazy population. But the problem is that sadly, some of these populations, face this condition, okay? So that's why we really take it seriously, okay? And of course, you guys have heard about CTE and stuff like that, okay? So guys, this season, we know better. We know the 3-day rule, especially. So nothing high risk for 3 days. We sit out our athlete. We take them off their phones, stuff like that for those first 3 days. We chill for those first 3 days. After first 3 days, we do start introducing our athletes back to normal life. That's very important, okay? But the big thing for you guys and for coaches and all that kind of stuff is making sure that we support our athletes, okay? Injuries are not a bad thing. Injuries happen in sport. I've had tons of injuries. My athletes out here have had tons of injuries, okay? Mr. Niebers, okay? It's part of sport, okay? But we have to support them and say, it's okay. All right, so the next big thing I want to say to you guys, okay, is some of my athletes, you guys come from all across wherever. Are you guys mostly from Brantford area? Yeah? Okay, cool. Okay, so I see it from athletes from all over. My number one message to people is, Cobblestone's a cool place, okay? Tennis is fantastic, okay? But you do not have to come and see me in tennis, okay? You can go wherever. But the key is that wherever you guys go for any sport-related injury, concussion or whatever, is my big message is make sure that you get properly assessed this season, okay? My big message. Do not go to a place and they come in with a concussion and they say, follow my finger, boom, boom, how does that make you feel? And the athlete, of course, is gonna say what, guys? I'm fine. I hear it all the time. I had this patient maybe, a month ago or whatever, and sadly, the healthcare professional cleared a concussion athlete who they had never even seen before over the phone, okay? So please tell me how you clear somebody with a concussion returning back to a high-risk sport. Bye, you should have a good night. How do you clear an athlete going back to sport, a physical sport where they run, jump, twist, catch, all that kind of stuff over the phone? Okay, please tell me how that happens. It doesn't, okay? So the key is when your athletes are going back to sport this season, they need to get properly assessed by somebody that does this more than once a year, okay? Or that doesn't BS the job, okay? We get referrals from all over because we do that good job, okay? So this is an elite soccer goalie. These are called fit lights. So as an elite soccer goalie, he has to have amazing peripheral vision. So basically, he's looking straight ahead and he's using that peripheral vision. So with these athletes, we create the situation that they do on a normal basis and we challenge them. They should be able to do this symptom-free and easily, right? But I'm telling you, I hear it all the freaking time. Follow the finger. 3 seconds, you're good to go back to sport. That's garbage. Okay? Exertion testing on treadmills and that. We need to test their cardiovascular. Can they walk up a hill for 25, 30 minutes easily? Can they do that? Because if you're playing a football game, you should be able to do that, or a hockey game that's in 90 minutes, you should be able to do that. Okay? A big thing that we do in this clinic is visual screening. Okay? You know, are you getting your eyes checked after concussion? Okay, so this person scored a score of 30. Clearly this person has some issues. So when we look at vision, you know, can they track something? Can they look back and forth between an object? Can they read well? Can they fixate on a target and maintain their concentration post-concussion? This person can't, but I'm telling you, this person goes back to sport all the freaking time, all the time, and their eyes are like this, when they should be like this, okay? Who has a concussion here, guys? What do you think? This was your test this afternoon, eh? Yes. All right. Sadly, once again, people go back to sport all the time, and guess what their eyes are, right? That's a problem, okay?
What am I looking at there?
So this is a reading test. That's a good question. So every dot here is where a person looks, okay? So you see how it's like kind of boom to boom to boom to boom? That's where a person is actually looking. So when we do visual testing with people, we actually shoot a laser into their pupil and videotape it. So we say, read the paragraph once through, boom, 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 and we videotape their eyes. That's how it should roughly look, okay? This is the exact same as this. Crazy, eh? So this is a problem, okay? That person, they can't track those words at all. Their eyes are all over the place, as you can clearly see, okay? Nice, neat, and tidy. They're going word to word to word to word to word all the way down. Normal. And then at the end of the sentence, they go back to the next line and they continue to do it, okay? This obviously is a problem, okay? Problem, yeah. Okay? Balance problems, okay? Big thing, you know? Balance and coordination. You know, can they do what that girl right there is doing? You know? You're doing great. Candace, you're doing okay. All right? The key, though, is with concussion injuries, is the multidisciplinary approach is key. So when we have concussion athletes come in and we assess them, that's our big strength, is that if somebody has a cognitive problem or a vision problem, is we put them in with that correct person. And that's another big thing with concussion care, is one provider is not the provider. You know, they call me the concussion ninja, and that's great. But the thing is my team, when I see my concussion people, they see sometimes more than just me, okay? If I have a person that has a vision problem like that, guess who they're seeing, okay? Or a balance problem, or, you know, a return to play problem, they may see Tanis, okay? The team approach is key, okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Pretty good? Pretty cool? A+? Okay. Sorry for showing your results today. I did feel so bad, embarrassed.
You gotta show me.
Yeah, I gave you a free coffee though, so. All right, guys, I want to go over a couple last minute things. You guys are doing fantastic, okay? The most common myths I see all the time. So this is a big football one. Do I need to be knocked out to have a concussion, guys?
No.
No. Most concussions, sadly, don't get knocked out, okay? That's a problem, okay? Because sometimes I always say to parents, I'm like, I wish all kids got knocked out because at least it would stop them from keep playing. I'm telling you, football's one of the worst for that reason, because most kids get smacked and they're like, Johnny, get up, let's go. We got next play, let's go, all right? Happens all the time, okay? But most never have that. Helmets, visors, and mouth guards, okay? Do you think if I wear a helmet, visor, and mouth guard, I will get a concussion? Yeah. Do you think they prevent concussions? No. Okay? Very, very key to remember, guys. Because people are always like, oh, I spent $10,000 on my helmet. Well, he's good. He's not going to get a concussion this season. I hear it in my hockey players all the time. Okay? Any dentists here tonight? Ah, man. No one's a dentist these days. I do these presentations all night, 7 days a week, guys. And the last several I have, I'm like, there's no dentist. And so anyway, I have a business plan for all the dentists here. Mouth guards, really cool. Study came out about a month ago. Do you guys wear all mouth guards? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Hockey, I know, no. That's a whole other night. That was last night. You guys are football tonight. Really cool study, guys. Make sure your kids are wearing their mouth guard, okay? Very, very key. The new study came out about a month ago, and we know that with wearing a mouth guard, we get actually up to a 30% reduction in concussions. That is huge, huge.
What are you basing that on 30% of? Because 100% of the kids have to have mouth guards in football.
Yeah.
So you're talking about some sports where you don't have to wear a mouth guard?
Hockey. So in hockey, if you're a part of the minor league, the OMHA, it's mandatory. If you're a part of Hockey Alliance, non-mandatory.
I cannot believe that they don't make hockey players wear mouth
Yep.
guards.
So in the study, there was let's just say 500 kids. And in that 500 kid situation, up to 30% of them, the ones that did wear a mouth guard, never sustained that concussion, which is just phenomenal results. Okay, it's amazing. So my thing to parents is, knowing that, why in the world would you not do it, right? Go to Canadian Tire and buy one for friggin' $10, okay? Wear the mouth guard, okay? Why wouldn't you do it? In Alliance, I do these presentations every night. Wear the mouth guard. I tell the parents that because all my people right now are Alliance. Wear it. It's crazy that they don't do that, okay? Do I need to hit something to get a concussion, guys? No. My car accident people. Whiplash is the way you get a concussion. Boom. They don't need to hit anything, okay? Next one. If I MRI or CT your kid's head tonight, he just had a concussion. Is the MRI or CT going to show anything, guys? No. Why? Because concussions are not a structural problem, remember. Very, very, very small percentage of concussions have bruising, bleeding, or swelling, or any of those things. Very, very small percentage of that, okay? Very small, okay? And once again, most of those type injuries are due to more significant traumas, like car accidents and stuff like that, okay? All right, one of my last myths for tonight. If I get a concussion, do I lock my kid in a dark room? Even without a concussion, we lock Cindy in there, 100%. With teenage daughters, lock them in their room, okay? The key is, when do we somewhat restrict our kids in the dark room, or maybe reduce light environments, guys? When do we maybe think about, lowering that stimulus a little bit? And the answer is, during what phase? The excitatory phase. Because we know the brain is on fire. We know it's going crazy. So do we put them in a bright lit crazy clinic or Walmart or a grocery store? No. All right? After that 3 days, we get them going again. Okay? But for that first 3 days, yes, we reduce the stimulus a little bit. But we never, ever, ever lock our kids in a dark room. Okay, guys? Always a good joke when I for that one. Always. All right. This season, guys, if your son or daughter has any sport-related injury, whether it's a concussion or ankle or whatever it is, we always go through these steps, okay? Every step is 24 hours long. If we sustain a concussion tonight, typically, for the first 3 days, as we all know, we're going to do some light cognitive stuff, basic stuff, okay? We want to limit electronics for those first 3 days. We want to chill. We want to do lower lit environments, not dark rooms, but chill, okay? If the athlete is progressing well, they're doing better, their symptoms are improving, guess what, guys? We go into the next step, where we just increase that cognitive. Maybe we start doing some light homework, some nice easy stuff. If that progresses, we maybe start going back to school a little bit. From there, maybe we increase the school, and then maybe we go back to full days. But it's a progressive situation, guys, okay? That is the key with concussions, okay? So every kid that we will see this season, it's a progressive thing, okay? We don't go from stage 1 and jump to stage 6. It's a progressive thing, okay? And this will all be posted on your website, you know, all that kind of stuff, okay, guys? All right. You guys did fantastic tonight, okay? So this season, guys, for any sports-related injury whatsoever, like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's a shoulder, an ankle, concussion, okay? We offer you guys 24-hour care, okay? All you have to do is call us the night of or call us the morning of, preferably earlier the better, and we guarantee that you guys will be seen same day, okay? It's an amazing service. You guys get fantastic care. Just because you guys are a part of us, you get access to something like that. You don't have to wait 3 weeks or anything like that. We don't need referrals, nothing like that, okay? Our services are covered by most insurances, extended health care, stuff like that. We are not OHIP covered, but most insurances will cover our care, okay? So if you guys do need anything this season, we are here for you, okay? No waiting or anything like that, okay? Any questions with that? Pretty good, okay? Nice and simple. The key is that we know that early intervention, seen quickly, obviously, will favor outcomes, okay? So that's why we offer it to our premier teams and leagues that kind of sit through these presentations and that, okay? Really good service, okay? Any questions with that? Pretty good? Okay. So, you guys did great. All right. Who can tell me the 2 phases of concussions? First hand up.
Sedentary and press.
Amazing. Who can tell me 3 red flags?
Vomiting, confusion, and imbalance.
Pardon?
Vomiting, confusion, and imbalance on motor function.
But they have to be red flags, though.
Well, that's continuous vomiting,
Yeah.
unconsciousness,
Okay. Red flags.
like not knowing their names.
Okay. So we'll give it to them. So memory is going down big time. Okay, so maybe not knowing your name, and then you're like, do you know who I am? I'm your dad for 15 years. And they're like, no. Okay. Red flags. Remember, going to the hospital. Okay? Awesome. All right, guys, have a great night. If you need anything, give me a call, okay? If you guys do, want to sign up for that rolling baseline test, I need you guys to email the clinic tonight or this week sometime and give us the go-ahead to do that. Okay?
talking with the
Yeah.
parents?
Your email address
Yes.
is
So it's on the back of all your brochures there. So if you go to cobblestonemedicinerehab.com, our email's on there. Just email us and say, my name is this, my son is this, I want to sign up for rolling baseline testing for the rest of the year. There's free, it doesn't cost you anything, it's all covered by us, okay? I just need you guys to do the green light to give us the okay to do that, okay? Sound cool? All right, guys, have a good season.
It's Trevor, right?
Tyler. Yes, he was. Yeah, no worries.